I did was I went to File and created a new Shiny web app. And so when you do that, it creates two windows, the server window and the UI window here. This library command basically calls Shiny forward, which helps build the web application. Let's go ahead and run that so we can see. Bam. Okay. So with this attach command, I'm attaching my dataset, attrition_1. Library command, I'm calling forward ggplot2. I already installed it in my last assignment when I was messing around with R a little bit, and you can see from the packages window I have ggplot in this area. Let's bring that back. So once we've called forward ggplot, we're pushing the function onto server. And function basically provides this basically provides that base for creating these new functions, input and output. And with output, we are pushing render plot onto it. And this, as the name suggests, basically renders a plot that you can assign to an output slot. ggplot over here initializes a plot object, and you can define it, or not define it, but it'll pull from the data set here, attrition1. AES pulls the variables monthly income on the x-axis and years at the company on the y-axis here. Geopoint basically creates this scatter. The size 3 defines the point size, and the color I just threw in there. I wanted it to be red. xlab, or label, labels the x-axis, and ylab labels the y-axis. The x limit sets a limit from where you want to start and where you want your plot to end. So I started mine at 1800, and then I ended it at 20,000, not 2,000, sorry. Y limit is the same thing. It starts it at 0 and it's at 40. GG title here, this allows the user to input the title. Statspood method, again, allows the user to input the method, and the level that you see here is at a 0.08, that's the alpha. Span basically controls the amount of smoothing. This is for the Loesch. na.rm basically removes the missing values. So if this is true, it will remove missing values. Theme, as the name suggests, kind of plays with the look and feel of your graph here. On your axis your axis text, sorry. It wants you to define the non-data elements, the element text, and wants it to be a size 13. You can obviously do a lot more things to make this look a little better, but we've only messed around with size here. Same thing with the axis text on the y-axis. These numbers, you want them to be size 13. Titles are double, or I've set them to be double, so I have monthly income in dollars at font size 26. The same thing with the Y title here at font size 26. And then we go over here to the plot title. We do a thing a little bit different with the non-data component of that. We turn that to a size 52, double the size of that. Hopefully I did my math right. And we put a boldface on it. Bam, it's brave. And justified it to the right. So if you set this to be 1, it'll be at the right. Set it to be 0 at the left. 0.5 is the center. Now let's go over here to the user interface. Sorry. Oops. Boom. Bring this up. So right here, the user interface creates a fluid page layout, and this fluid page layout, the user interface window doesn't create it, we put that in there. This fluid page layout, you can define, sidebars, headers, whatever you want. It makes it look really cool. Title panel here lets you name your, or lets you put a name in your title, which I did here. I just called it dashboard. The sidebar layout creates an area with a sidebar and a main area for your chart to go here, sidebar, and this page with sidebar allows it to have a little header, and that's how I moved this section from the left over to the top. I'm sure there are many different ways to do it, but that's how it ended up working for me. And select input here, it refers to the first part of this window. And input ID, it's basically asking the user to input their smoothing method or select the smoothing method, hence the select input. Labels basically creates these the title for that little area, and the choices you hear, whatever you define in here, show up in this list. So the reason I have this in quotes is because it's not like an actual program with an R. There's no none program, but there is an LM and a LOSH, and we want it to be selected none as a default, and hence when we open up the app it was at none. And this conditional panel basically well, it basically puts up a condition. So if this is met, then this part occurs, or if you screw up, it all breaks. But this took a little bit of time to figure out. It should not have. But as soon as the user inputs the smoothing method here, LOSH, then the slider input shows up. So anything else you choose from here, the slider method doesn't show up, but as soon as you select LOSH, it shows up. And when it does show up, you want it to be a selector, not a selector, a slider. Ooh. So you have your label here, your title, select the amount of smoothing, min, and max defines the anchors of the slider. Value basically is it functions like selected. It starts at 0.30. If I would have set that to 0.5, it would have started at 0.5. And step is the increments that it goes by. Moving down to select input, same thing here. It's a second window. We want the input ID to be the title of the plot. So in the label, we have your title. In the choices, we have whatever you've defined here. Say you want to choose the Arial, it selects that title for you. But this selected command here, whenever you open up the app, it'll always go to your title here. Now let's go to the main panel, which is this plot. The plot output ID, it's going to be a scatter plot. This width defines the width of the plot, which is 900 pixels, and the height of the plot, which is 400 pixels. And that basically concludes explaining this web